I'm not exactly sure I can pull this off. My wife took one of our kids to a breakdance battle, and they're gone for the weekend. They just left. It's Friday night at 6:45 p.m. and I'm going to attempt to get a new backsplash put up in this kitchen and have it all done before they get home on Sunday afternoon.
Wow.
I have no idea if it's possible or not. I've only done a couple of tile projects before, and so this is definitely one of the bigger ones and one of the most ambitious time frames that I've decided to do it in. So tonight I'm gonna get everything demoed. I got to get this old backsplash off. It's like this old gross Formica material. I got to get the microwave taken down and get this whole kitchen cleared out. So first step is get all the countertops cleared off and start disassembling the backsplash. So let's go. So we bought this house about 3 years ago, and it was built in the mid-50s, and it was only another single owner before us. And he did so much of it by hand, which I really, really respect. And so much of it is done, let's just say by hand, DIY. We've lived with some spaces that we really don't enjoy, and the kitchen is absolutely one of those spaces. I'm hoping that the backsplash will spruce it up a little bit, make it feel a little bit more up to date and a little bit brighter. Also, you'll notice that the fridge is pulled out. That's because there's a huge place where we had water damage on the wall over there. I'm gonna also attempt to patch that spot and paint that wall all in the next, less or more than 24 hours, less than 48 hours. I know, I'm crazy. One of the things I love about these older houses is that they're so unique and they have so much character. So I love taking that creativity, that imagination that existed back then and just bringing a modern flavor to it. All right, now it's time to pull down the microwave. I'm a little sketched to do this by myself. I know the system. It's probably gonna be heavy. I just gotta get in there and figure it out. So typically they're mounted from the top up here. Owner's manual to the microwave. They put another bottom in the bottom of this cabinet. I'm not quite sure why yet, but it seems to be covering the screws that are mounting the microwave. Oh, it's heavy and greasy. All right. Check this out, this is pretty interesting. They had this old soft touch system in the 50s. The last house that we remodeled had this same light switch control panel. And basically you have a central hub and it sends a low voltage signal to a hub inside the closet. And then that's what turns the lights on and off. There's no actual power coming to this box, which is just crazy. What we did is we then went with a wireless system with all of those switches so that the wireless switch uses Bluetooth from the switches to send to the box in the closet that then operates the lights. So it's an interesting system. I think it was kind of experimental. It was really finicky, but basically you could control every light in the house from these hubs. And I don't know, I'm sure people in the 50s were like, wow, this is really high tech, but man, it did not age well. So I'm pulling this old light switch out. Just wanted to show you what this thing looks like from behind. Look at all of those low voltage wires going to the hub. Look at that. Now I'm gonna leave this space open because I'm gonna put some of those wireless outlets or some of those wireless switches in this space. Now it's time to start pulling this old Formica backsplash off. We'll see how hard it is to get off. It seems like it's wanting to just come. Ooh, that's brittle. I did not expect it to be that brittle. Wow. I don't know what all this stuff is, but it's not looking good for just putting tile right back on it. So that's the thing with these older houses and these projects, they never go the way that you think they're gonna go. But let me show you what's going on here. This surface is really, really rough, which isn't necessarily a problem, except for some of these really bigger divots here in the wall. That's gonna be an issue because that's gonna make the tile not lay flat. So I've gotta see about what it's gonna take to get this off. It's the glue from the Formica. And then all of this is peeling off down to the plaster back here. So what that means is I'm probably gonna need to take some thin set and just float all of this with thin set to give it nice and even before I start putting on the tile. So yeah, this is gonna be challenging. I've got the old backsplash off both sides, over by the stove, over by the sink. Look how ugly that was. Man, that was a beast. And got it all off. I'm gonna fill in a couple of spots with some thin set before I start the tile. It's getting late tonight. It's time for a glass of wine. I've got a long day tomorrow. When I was cleaning everything up last night, I got to thinking there's really two things that I'm really thankful for whenever I start a project like this. The first one is my dad. He taught me how to work with my hands. He was a general contractor and I was expected to work. I didn't appreciate it at the time. And my dad died this time last year. I think about that gift that he gave me a lot. The second thing I'm thankful for, and I don't even know where it came from, but I'm just willing to dive in. I don't need to know exactly how to do it. I actually don't even need to know exactly what it's gonna look like at the end. But I've always just been willing to take on a project. I haven't always enjoyed the challenge. That's what's coming in later in life. So those are the two things I'm thankful for. The ability and knowledge of how to work with my hands and the willingness to take on projects that are challenging. And on that note, it's time to get to work. I'm gonna start on this side because I wanna get the sink side done. It's where our dishwasher is, our sink, and our refrigerator. And the functionality of the kitchen has been a little bit challenging. And then we'll move over to the range side. So what I've got is this laser level here. It's self-leveling, so I just put it on this light stand right here, pop it up, and I'm going to get my lines for my first row. I'm gonna start the first row right here back just a little bit, and then I'm gonna coat some of this with some drywall mud and paint it. So we're actually gonna pull the backsplash from the counter edge just a little bit so it goes up right here. I want it to be about probably an inch or two away from this light socket. So this thing's really cool. We just pop it on. All of a sudden we've got lasers that we can level with. And I can adjust the height with this stand to the height of the tile, which I'll bring in here in just a second and start getting it lined out. I'm gonna go ahead and get the tile in, get it stacked here, get it all prepped, and get some thin set mixed up. We're gonna start laying tile. So let me show you the tile that we're putting down and how I wanna put it down. It's a little bit unique, I think. I've seen some other people do it. Let's get these opened up. So they're these extremely long subway tile. They're called aloe, so they're like a light green, and they're matte. I don't know about the matte. I'm taking a risk here. I'm hoping it doesn't show hard water, all that sort of stuff. I've never laid a matte tile before, but I'm really excited about it. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna stack it like this. It'll stack probably too high, like that, and side by side, and just all the way down. I wanted it to feel unique and have a different angle to it, and I think this is gonna be a really cool way to lay this tile. I like to mix up a small batch of thin set. I know it takes a little bit longer, it's a little bit more effort, but it seems like it's less messy to me, and then I end up having a cleaner tile job. This whole, what I've learned over the couple of tile jobs that I've done is that the cleaner I can keep my workspace, the more tidy, the better the tile job looks. I don't do exact measurements. I just add a bit of water, see where I'm at. It's always less water than I think. Consistency of this is, I mean, this is a little bit softer than I would like it to be, but I'm not gonna mess with it, just keep adding mortar and water, mortar and water. I'm gonna deal with it. It'll start to set up a little bit as I'm working with it, but you can see kind of clumps and plops. I think it's a pretty good consistency. I've got the spacers. For this one, I'm using 1/8 inch spacers, and these are helpful, obviously, to keep the tiles spaced evenly. I also put them on the counter right here as we start to keep a gap between the countertop and the tile as well. Put the spacer in between them and pull it tight, but make sure we don't move this tile off of the line. Once it's pretty close into place, put some pressure on it, and we're still straight. All right, so now I'm at my first cut piece. I need to cut around this outlet. So what I do typically first is I dry fit it. So I'm gonna throw some spacers down so I know exactly where it's gonna be on the countertop. I want that spacing to be exactly right. And I put it against the box here, and I just mark the tile. Right, so that gives me exactly where my where those cuts are. Next thing is to measure this space, making sure I leave the 1/8 inch or factor for the 1/8 inch space. Sometimes it's easiest just to put a spacer in there and my tape, and then make an assessment there. That piece is gonna be 7/8. So we're gonna pull in from this side 7/8. So basically, if you can see my marks, got the two top and then this side. So let's go get this cut. So I cut the first two lines here, and now I'm gonna make a bunch of small cuts all the way to this line and break them off. I'll show you what I mean. Now all I have to do is break these off, like so, and then get my snips and just snip them down to be flat, and we're golden. All right, the next thing I always try to remember to do, sometimes I forget, a lot of times I forget, but before buttering it up and getting all the mortar on it, I really try to remember to dry fit it before I get any thin set on there. That is gonna work beautifully. And the next piece doesn't have to be cut. That's a win. Woo! There to there, that's where I'm gonna end it right there. I don't know if you can, yep, there you can see me. Cause that'll tuck behind the fridge. Last thing I gotta do here is the windowsill. So I'm just cutting some pieces, running them straight so they'll match up with the seam lines on these. So it's a bunch of cutting. I've got, I don't know, a lot of different, or a lot of same cuts to make, and I'll lay those in, and then I'm moving to the other side. Good morning. It's Sunday morning, and Katie and our boy get home today. I think they're gonna get home around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Forgot to record my progress last night before I went to bed. So let me show you where we're at with things this morning. So we've got this completely done. I'm gonna need to patch up that little spot and paint it right there. Just a little drywall float. Got the windowsill. All this is gonna be like an angled grout, so all that brown side of the tile will be covered up. Remount those light switches and do a little painting and patching. This side looks fantastic. Same thing here. I got a couple of light switches to replace this box. If you remember, these were our crazy wires. I got a couple of light switches, those wireless light switches that we have over here. The same style, and I can program them to work with the kitchen and dining light. So all we have left is to fill in this space and these two cut pieces right here. One thing that my daughter brought up that I thought was a really good idea, once we pulled the microwave down off the wall, we realized how much it opened up this side of the kitchen. Having that big microwave there really crowds in the stove. So I think we're gonna leave the microwave down and put a stove hood up, and then put the microwave in one of these cabinets back here. Keep this more open. We love to cook. We do a lot of cooking on the stove and in the oven, and I think it'll make the experience so much better. My guess is I've got about another 2 hours on the tile, and then we'll dive into the grout. My hope is that the grout will take me 2 or 3 hours. Grout is my least favorite part of tile projects. It's just tedious and a little bit messy, and just want to do a good job. I'm just putting the very last piece in here. That's it. Now I can start on the other side, grouting. Bingo! Because I'm not using any edge pieces for the tile, I don't really love the way that the beveled tile looks or any of the edge pieces. I love this really clean square look, but I'm gonna finish the edges with grout. And in order to get a nice clean line on the grout, I'm going to be putting masking tape up. And then when I grout, we grout right, a nice angle right to the tape. And then when I peel the tape, that'll be a perfectly clean line of grout around the edge of the tile, and we won't see any of this factory edge of the tile. So I'm gonna get all this tape put on now so we can get ready to grout this side. Now with the countertop, same sort of thing. I'm gonna grout to the countertop, but this time I just want it straight down from the tile. Perfect, it fits just barely behind the faucet, just like that. So what I'm gonna do is I've got this grout here. It's the color's called Castle. And again, with the mortar, I don't do measurements. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe I'll get criticized for this. You can put all the criticism down in the comments if you want to. But I mix it up to a consistency that I like to work with, which is probably a little bit soupier than most, so I can work it into the cracks a little bit easier. The more thick the mortar, the more challenging I've found it to be to get into all of the cracks. But then the problem is then you get some spots that sag, and I think that's the trade-off. So I'm gonna get this mixed up. Again, I'm gonna use a small bucket. This should be, I'll fill it about here, and that should be about what's needed for this side of the kitchen. So let's get to mixing. All right, so this consistency is pretty clumpy. It's not super runny, but it's not holding itself together either. Looks well, good. So just get a scoop of it and just start pushing it in to the cracks. The top is where it gets challenging. That's why we put the tape up there. Now the thing about having this tape on is that we don't want a thick amount of grout at the top of the tape. And I also try to make sure I get a lot off, most of the grout off the back off the tile. Still not home, they're a couple hours out, and I've got the kitchen put back together, got some things back on the countertops, and the tile is ready to be revealed. I can't wait to see their reaction.
Whoa! That looks good. Wow!
What do you think?
It looks so much better. Smell it? Oh. Whoa!
Whoa! Not big ugly holes.